are switching gears to talk about pathways to graduate school. We have an auspicious team of colleagues here. We have our leader in Andrew Tausolowski. He will play the role of moderator as our graduate school representatives from the AU School of Public Affairs and also the Kogod School of Business, the AU College of Arts and Sciences, the School of International Service, AU School of Communication, the School of Education, the School of Law, and also from Andrew's very own School of Professional Studies. And you'll get a chance to meet from representatives from all of these different sectors. You'll get a taste of the industry and the education needed for the industries that they represent. We have a wealth of knowledge at AU. The knowledge that you can get here will help you in your applications to graduate school, in your search for finding the right fit, for identifying potential scholarships and financial aid. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Andrew and to our great panel of graduate school professionals. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thanks so much, Amy. Happy to be here and happy to be representing the Office of Graduate and Professional Studies. As Amy said, my name is Andrew Tausolowski. I am the Director of Graduate Student Success in the Office of Graduate and Professional Studies. So I work very closely with a lot of the folks that you're going to meet today to support the graduate student experience. So how do we make that exactly what you want it to be during your time at American University? So I'll let everybody from each of the schools and colleges introduce themselves. And what I'll do is I will, I'll go by the order I see folks on the screen. So let's do the School of Public Affairs first.
Thank you, Andrew and Amy, for having us here. I am Jennifer Forney. I am the Assistant Dean of Graduate Enrollment for the School of Public Affairs. And we have an array of master's degrees, PhD degrees, couple executive degrees, a couple of online degrees. So lots to talk about as you consider what that next step might be for you. So thank you for allowing me to be on the panel and hope I can be helpful.
Thank you, Jennifer. And just for a little bit more context for our students on the call, what we'll do is we'll have every school introduce themselves. We'll move into a period of question and answers, and then we'll allow for some time in breakout rooms so you can talk to the individual school leaders to learn more about specific programs or opportunities or things like that that you didn't have a chance to ask in this general session. So thank you, Jennifer. So next up, let's do the School of Communication.
Great, thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Amy, as well for having us today. My name is Brandon Ferry. I'm the Graduate Admissions Recruitment Coordinator here in the School of Communication. And in the School of Communication, we do have an array of degrees, graduate degrees in film media arts, journalism, public communication, and communication studies. So we're really excited to speak more on that today on the panel, as well as during the breakout room as well.
Thank you, Brandon. Next up, Kogod School of Business.
Hi, everyone. My name is Deborah Armstrong. I am an Assistant Director of Admissions for the Kogod School of Business. I think I met a couple of you a few weeks ago, so nice to see you again. So we offer a wide variety of Masters of Science programs. We have 7 different ones in anything from marketing to finance to real estate, as well as a few online degrees and our kind of our signature program, which is our full-time MBA program. So hope to get to speak to some of you again later.
Thank you, Deborah. Next up, let's do the School of International Service.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me here today. My name is Matthew Forrester Smith, and I am with the School of International Service, or SIS, at American University. we're probably a great fit for folks who are interested in working in the various careers that one could have in international affairs. Rather than having just one generalized program, our approach was to have more than 15 different graduate programs that focus on specific areas within the international relations field. So we've got something for folks interested in foreign affairs, foreign policy, to folks who are interested in conflict resolution, and a little bit of everything there in between. So I look forward to meeting meeting you all today and chatting more in the breakout rooms.
Thank you very much. The College of Arts and Sciences.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Laurel Semple. I'm the Assistant Director of Graduate Enrollment for the College of Arts and Sciences here at AU. We have a wide array of programs. I think currently we have over 50 graduate certificates, masters, and PhD programs. I specifically work with a lot of STEM programs, and I work with a lot of our international students. So happy to answer any questions you have there, but happy to be here.
Thank you, Laurel. Next up, the School of Education.
Hello, everyone. My name is Max Kutch. I am a graduate program coordinator at the School of Education, working with our graduate teacher ed programs. We have a wide variety of master's degrees, both online and in person, that would be happy to go over, as well as a number of certificate programs and an online doctoral program that we can elaborate on a little bit. And I am also joined by another one of our coordinators, Kat Felter.
Hi, I look forward to meeting some of you all.
Thank you, Max and Kat. And last but certainly not least, the Washington College of Law. No WCL today?
They must have had a conflict at the last minute.
No worries. Well, then I'll wrap us up with the Office of Professional Studies. So part of the graduate programs office is the Office of Professional Studies. And I think the best way to think of the programs that we offer are interdisciplinary programs that don't necessarily fit very cleanly into another school or program. So it's things like sports analytics and management, healthcare management, human resources. We also offer certificate programs focused on healthcare management, human resources, project monitoring and evaluation, and things like that. And these are all online programs that are designed for working professionals. So it's a really great way to either enhance or complement the work that you're already doing out in the workforce. So now I'll turn it over to you all, students, to see what questions you have, either specifically for one of the schools that's here today, or just generally about admissions to graduate school.
To warm up our student audience, I'm just going to tee it up with one question that I hear all the time. And that is, how do you write your essay to make the best match as you're trying to get into this prestigious school at AU? So what's the best way to approach your personal essay or personal statement?
There is a wealth of expertise on the panel, so I'm sure everybody can jump in, but I'll jump in right away and just offer some tidbits, and then I hope my colleagues will follow up. I think important to share that this is often called a personal statement, and I think understanding that label on the statement is something you need to hang on to. So one, understand who your audience is. You always need to understand who the decision makers are on your file. Oftentimes it is faculty-driven admission process, but there are times where senior level administrators or general administrators are making decisions, but you as a prospective student need to know who you're writing that statement for. Again, not to be comprehensive, the next thing I would offer to you is make sure you know the college, school, department, and the program specifically that you're writing the statement for. Believe me, when you read enough files in your professional life, you can tell if a statement has been written for a number of schools. and they're just simply switching out the name of that institution. Instead, remember that that school wants to know that you know them very well. So do your research, make sure you zero that statement in for your audience and for the individual program, school, department, college, whatever it is, so they know that you are interested in them. What else do you guys have to offer?
I'll second that, Jennifer. I mean, we call ours our statement of purpose. And so really, if you think of your resume as everything you've done in the past, think of your statement of purpose as everything you're hoping to do with this degree, what you're hoping to accomplish and how it's going to get you there. And most of our faculty, while they're faculty, are also professionals in their field. They're out there doing research. They're still publishing. They're working with other scholars in their field. So look into that and say, you know, I see that Professor X is doing these interesting research into something that shares your similar research, and really kind of state that. You don't have to be long and florid about it, but if you make a note that shows that you've done your research and you've seen what the faculty are doing within your field, and it's something that applies to you, I think that's a terrific point to make.
And I'll go next just to add on to that. I think what Jennifer mentioned earlier about remembering that the word personal is in this, a personal statement. And I always counsel people to view it as an opportunity to tell us your story. And I think you can view stories as having past, present, and future. So your past is where you can maybe bring up some of the experiences that you have that relate to the program that you're applying to. The present can be why you're ready to embark upon a graduate program right now, and where there might be some tie-ins between your interests and what the school is known for or what you might be able to study. And I think looking to the future, what you might not have a perfect vision of that just yet, but maybe talking a little bit about where you see yourself working in your field of choice, and how this program will help be the foundation for you to have that meaningful career that you're looking for. To really help us to get to know you, in this personal statement, and draw as many connections between your awesome accomplishments and what you're hoping to achieve within the specifics of that particular program.
Yeah, and I'd be happy to follow up on that as well. I mean, all those points as well, but just speaking as somebody who was a former applicant to one of our grad programs here, one of the film programs, really, I would say just, spend some time on it, have it reviewed by a number of eyes, not only yourself, but I think speaking of my, just my background, I feel like when I was doing it, reading that over and over, to stop making sense after a while. So I feel like having people, some extra eyes, whether that be, friends, family members, perhaps, if you have access to university reading center as well. I think just being able to ensure it's a really pristine document, but it's still very passionate and conveys your story and gets that admissions committee excited about who you are as an applicant, I think can really set you apart from other applicants as well.
I think the only thing that I would add, because everyone has had some really great advice so far, is just to also ensure that you answer the prompt. Different schools may have different prompts. I know, for instance, ours is pretty simple, short and long-term career goals following the program, but I think that some people, similarly to, I forget who said it prior, but students, submitting similar essays to similar schools, different schools may have different prompts. So you may need to go back and edit that a little bit to ensure that you're answering each school's specific prompt.
And Deborah, we'll keep you on the spot here to start off our next question. How might you advise somebody who's not sure if they want to do in-person or online studies?
Yeah, that's definitely something that's super important to think about, especially now. I think there's probably more online programs than really there may have been even 5 years ago, due to, the state of the world over the past 3 to 5 years. So I think that that's one of the first most important decisions that you need to make. And a lot of times you may be able to get a similar program, but either an online or an in-person option. I think it's important to sometimes speak with the school specifically to understand what are the differences. Because, for instance, I'll use our program as an example because I know it best, but there may be an online MBA program or the in-person. So it's important to understand exactly what the differences are going to be between those two programs. Obviously, other than just in-person interaction, there could be other differences in curriculum, differences in the faculty teaching the classes even. So there may be more differences than just the obvious difference of it being fully online or fully in person.
I'd actually like to add to that also at SOE, we have a couple of programs, our EPL program, one of our MAT programs. We do have parallel online and in-person offerings. And while they are very, very similar in a lot of ways, it's really important if you're making sort of a binary choice between two that offer, for example, the same certification, that you do understand they're similar in all these ways, but how are they different? A lot of graduate degrees will encompass some sort of placement or practicum or pro seminar or some sort of element where it has some type of in-person element. For our programs, that can be done where you're located, but of course it pays to look ahead towards the tail end of the program. That's extremely specific, and everyone here has a best handle on their school and how that works for them. For us, for teaching, it's extremely specific in that you're going to be doing observation, you're going to be doing student teaching. Those are things that cannot be done fully online, cannot be done fully asynchronously. So it's really important to know your program. And then even if it is on an online program, know what type of online program it is. Is it a rigid schedule? Is it flexible? Are there any asynchronous courses? How important is that cohort feeling to you? All those different things are going to really impact your experience as a student. And schools are happy to discuss the differences between those with you. So it definitely pays to be informed and understand, especially if you're choosing between functionally identical programs in terms of certification.
Other things that folks have to add about online versus in-person education?
I would say really reflect on yourself as a learner, and how you work and learn and discuss, and how you've done, like how you did during the pandemic, if you were in a program or learning online, working online, and what feels best for you. Like, do you like that in-person discussion? Do you like, to feel the energy of a room, or do you like the flexibility of, calling in and having some asynchronous work? So really reflect on yourself.
Yeah, and I would follow up with that as well. Although we only offer one online program, the rest are on campus. We still, say school communication is an array of part-time as well as weekend programs and full-time schedules. So I think, yeah, to piggyback everybody's saying is, I think just knowing what kind of learner you are, how you're best going to organize your schedule. Maybe you're going to look at, maybe working part-time or full-time during your graduate studies. Maybe that means you prefer to have a Saturday class or an evening class versus one that's traditional between 9 and 5. So I think it comes down to just looking at your schedule, knowing that a grad program could be a year, 2 years or longer, and being appropriately organized for that. So, you're not really given half to either one of those. That's school as well as professional, and, a little bit just day-to-day life as well.
Thank you all. As students are weighing whether or not they even want to go to graduate school, what are some factors that folks should reflect on or think about while making that decision?
Andrew, thank you for the question. I think this is something that is really one of the most pressing concerns for a prospective student. And I think we all on the panel would agree that this is a very personal decision. But I'll offer a few thoughts. One, something I always say, I am a strong believer that you get dumber as you get older. I think I'm allowed to say that. Once you get further and further away from school, meaning testing, for instance, and writing and so forth, the further and further that you get away, it gets tougher to, I think, immerse yourself again. And I'll say personally, life takes off, which may start limiting some of your options as you move forward, be it significant others or choices in your life. Now, does this mean you have to go to graduate school right after your undergraduate experience? I don't mean that at all. But I think you definitely want to be careful to not let too much time go by that perhaps your choices start getting limited about this next important step. I feel very strongly that all of you could have a job right now. We are very talented to even be here in this program. That is clear, but you're not here for a job. You are here to find a meaningful career. I believe that advanced education is going to afford that opportunity for you to wake up every day and do something that you enjoy and that you find meaning in. So that advanced degree, I believe, is a key piece of your journey. So I am a huge advocate of within 2-3 years. I know some of my colleagues here in the panel may speak to a professional experience requirement. So being aware of that is important, but there's some programs, for instance, all of ours, we don't have that requirement for our students. So students can make the choice very early in their academic journey to onboard with our graduate programs.
And if I could just piggyback off of Jennifer, I would, to the professional experience requirement, definitely do your research into that, because for instance, in our school, we have some of our programs that are very much tailored to going right into it after you graduate from undergraduate. And then we do have a program that, you know, really you become competitive after 3 to 5 years of working experience. So I think it really, I would just say, do your research into what you're looking to do to make your application as competitive as you can, regardless of what you want to go into, to ensure that you're really kind of hitting the sweet spot for what you apply to that.
This actually meshes really well with an earlier question about the statement of purpose or personal statement, because they're going to overlap a great deal. As you're thinking through, hopefully, if you're writing it correctly, you should be thinking sort of critically through writing your personal statement, sort of telling your own story to the school, and it should become, you know, evident to us, evident to you, why you're choosing to pursue the specific graduate degree, what you're hoping to gain. And of course, again, this is something that's going to vary very heavily by schools. Some of us have already talked about professional experience requirements and the lack of those. Some graduate programs, I know specifically in the School of Ed, they lead to a very specific career certification. You know, ours lead to teacher licensure, and teacher licensure is geographically bound. Now, of course, it's transferable, but that's an important thing to look at. For example, you know, if you're going to come to one of our on-campus programs and you live in Nebraska and you intend to teach in Nebraska, and you move to DC to go for a couple of years for graduate teacher education, you get a teaching certification. It's going to be for, you know, it's going to be easier to transfer around here into the DMV area. You could transfer it to Nebraska, but you have to have sort of thought through that process if it is one of those that has a more precise output for career certification. And the great thing about graduate school is that it's, you know, as you can see, there's a ton of variety as for the types of programs, for the type of demands that it has. And so luckily some of that reasoning as you're writing should sort of go hand in hand.
Thank you all. Rebecca, I see you have a question, so go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering, since it's such a new field, if there's any programs for data analytics, and if so, if you could briefly describe what that might be.
Deborah, that's you.
Yeah, so we actually offer a Master's of Science in Analytics. So please join me in the breakout room. Happy to tell you all about it. It's actually one of our most popular programs this year. So you get a lot of great experiential learning opportunities, different analytics languages, several that you're taught. So join me in the breakout room.
And the College of Arts and Sciences and the School of Public Affairs have a joint program in data science. So if you have any questions about that too, happy to talk to people about the master's and the certificate in data science.
Another question for the panel. What do you think is the most interesting job that you've seen a graduate of your school take, or who is the most interesting alumni, or maybe both?
I think,
go
okay.
ahead, Jennifer.
I just quickly, I think I was just going to comment, boy, you really want to get us caught with the array of programs we all have to pick out probably the most interesting or program and or alum, because we all have wonderful stories to tell. Again, if I know this is being recorded, so I'll probably get caught here. I am intrigued by it's called our Master of Science in Terrorism and Homeland Security Policy program, in that the students that we have the privilege to work with and to advance their skill set often go and do very fascinating things that we can't know a lot about, meaning they need to have very serious security clearances and they work in very exciting places. And again, much of their work they cannot share openly. So I am just intrigued with perhaps their placements in intelligence agencies, CIA, FBI, State Department, DOJ. And so these are very interesting alumni to me. How about others?
Yeah, I would say for ours, I'm just thinking by division for our film media arts division. I've been really impressed by those who decide to either go to West Coast or stay in the East Coast as well. Just top of my head, somebody that we utilize a lot for the alumni panel, just because she's so fantastic at conveying what she does. She's a visual effects editor for Disney Plus shows, specifically working for Marvel Studios. So I know recently she had to jump off really early from one of our alumni panels because she was wrapping up, I believe it was WandaVision at the time. So really exciting jobs in that manner. But I think just within the DC area, a lot of journalists that maybe started out in the school communication in one of the Washington Post practicums or Washington Post fellowship, then going on to write for the Washington Post or another publication that is that well known and that well respected too.
And from the SIS perspective, as I mentioned earlier, we have more than 15 programs. So I couldn't possibly pick just one or highlight just one out of all of them. But some ones that I think seem unique to us at American University that maybe a lot of other graduate programs don't have is our International Peace and Conflict Resolution program, which tends to be really popular. We have two programs that focus on the environment and how that plays a role in international affairs work. So we have a global environmental policy program, as well as a dual degree program that works with the UN University Peace in Costa Rica called Natural Resources and Sustainable Development. And as our work with the environment becomes more and more important, those programs I think tend to become more and more popular over the years. So those are some ones that I think are really interesting. To speak generally though, I think our students are really well-rounded at the point of graduation and are able to take their degrees in different directions. And I think having that agility is really important. So you don't feel like you are forced down one particular path that you have to stay in, but rather having the skill set and the agility to apply to different types of job opportunities and be competitive in different types of job opportunities is really important. So SIS graduates work in places like the Institute of Peace, the State Department, the Department of Defense, Department of Justice, NGOs, nonprofits, etc. So I think our students are able to take the flexibility of their degree and apply it to different types of opportunities.
I guess sorry.
Go ahead, Deborah.
I was just going to say, I guess to pivot off of that, similarly, I mean, we have students who go into for-profit, not-for-profit, large corporations, small startups, but I'm always really impressed by the number of entrepreneurs that we have coming out of a lot of our programs. And I remember I was just reading about one of our alumna the other day who recently not only started her own business as an entrepreneur, but is helping other entrepreneurs, both from COGOD and other schools who are more marginalized entrepreneurs, to get financial funding to start their businesses. So kind of then giving back after she started her own business. So it's always really cool to hear about our students who go off and kind of start their own company, as well as, several students who go on to join other companies.
And who springs to mind is a recent graduate of ours, Johanka Delgado, and she got her master's in fine arts and creative writing. And she is now the Stegner Fellow at Stanford University and is also a fellow for the National Endowment of Arts and has just really skyrocketed. She just co-wrote a book with Janelle Monáe called The Memory Librarian. And she's really she's also a very good friend of mine from undergraduate. So I'm giving her that extra boost there. But if you get a chance to read some of her short fiction, she's been published in the Paris Review, and all around, she's just phenomenal. But again, like everyone else said, we have almost 60 programs for the College of Arts and Sciences. So to name one, I would have to then go into computer science and anthropology and studio art. So there's really just a plethora of amazing alumni out there.
Well, most of the alumni that I work with go on to be teachers for obvious reasons. which I think is a very interesting job. But I'll just highlight one. Actually, as a matter of fact, Kat, my colleague, is an AU SOE graduate, so she's an interesting one as well. But for example, there's all kinds of stories from folks teaching in places from South Korea, and then of course all over the United States, internationally, and some of that's the stuff they're doing is really incredible. One really cool example is Sarita Carter-Schmidt. She graduated from our MAT program, and she's come back. She was a teacher at School Without Walls in DC for a while, and she was also an adjunct professor with us, so I got to work with her, which is why I'm bringing her up. And she's now working at the Department of Education. So she's moved through teaching in a couple different ways, and now more into the policy side. So I think it's always great seeing what some of the students that have moved through go on to do, because sometimes it's really unexpected.
Thanks for lifting up like our international aspect of SOE, Max. There's a program, master's program through SOE that focuses primarily on international education, as well as a few of our programs really hone in on the anti-racist policies and that are necessary to bring more educational equity into our schools and school systems. So there's some amazing work happening at the community level and the policy level that is kind of outside of the classroom realm as well.
Thank you all. Let's see. What would you say is the primary difference between undergraduate and graduate study?
I can just start with saying the difference between graduate and undergraduate admissions. I think a lot of people, maybe when they're just starting the process, don't realize how different it is. When you apply to undergrad, there's the common application, it goes in, there's the entire admissions office. The admissions office kind of decides who comes and who doesn't. When you get into graduate school, it's much more streamlined, right? It's much more focused on which program you're in. So a lot of cases, it'll be the faculty who's deciding. So I'm here to help you. I'm here to answer all your questions. I'm here to help you get things uploaded, but I'm not the one who decides if you're a good fit for the MS in chemistry, because I'm not a chemist. So that goes to the experts in the field. So I think that's just something to keep in mind for the application process itself, but I'll let everybody else weigh in.
I would say it's a lot shorter. So a lot of, a graduate program may only be 1, maybe 2 years, whereas you have, a full 4 on average years spent in undergrad. So the time flies a lot quicker. So whenever you're submitting the application and they're asking questions about what do you want to do after the program or things like that, you might be thinking, wow, I haven't even started the program. But a lot of times the reasoning behind that is because the program is so quick that we kind of already ask students to have a little bit of an idea of, what they even hope to do after the program, just because it's so quick.
Now add that in general, undergrad tends to be a little bit more generalized. We will take some courses that help sort of with your just general foundational knowledge, and graduate school is going to be much more specialized. And it's helpful to know that sort of career path that you want to go down when you're thinking about the specific graduate program that you're hoping. So you will have classes that are typically just focused on that one sort of path that you're hoping to go down. And as you're researching different graduate schools and programs, I think you should look for skill building opportunities. And I think that's one of the other big differences. So those practical opportunities. Are there options to do an internship? Things that might help to kind of pave that path for the career that you're looking for.
I also think it'll be really exciting for all of you to make this next choice, that the relationship, I believe, with faculty at the graduate level also distinctly changes. You now have chosen their field. You are now colleagues in the same field. And what that opens up is the very exciting opportunity for exchange. So your faculty will very much care about what you think. And I know all of you care a lot about learning again, or you wouldn't be here, but that is really exciting to be in an environment with your peers in the program that are all committed to the field, and then your faculty recognizing and respecting you and very eager to hear from you about what your insights are. So it creates a wonderful classroom experience of exchange and collaborative learning that I think is really enjoyable and adds to the learning process for everyone.
Yeah, and I think to differ a little bit more from undergrad, I think really comes down to that organization standpoint of really knowing, you'll be able to, I'd say, attain everything you really can within a given week when it comes to processing some time and being really allocating the resources to do so. But I think while not only just chasing your academics, but as a lot of my colleagues mentioned, just being able to network during grad school, I think is going to be of the utmost importance, because having a degree in hand at the end of the day is going to be great. But if you're not able to secure a career right out of the door, I think it's in your best interest and time to do exceptionally well in classes, get to know guest lecturers, get to know adjuncts and tenors alike. Just speak from my own point of view right now, that I'm finding myself getting coffee with professors I really enjoyed their, not only their backgrounds, but their class themselves. That opens you up to a lot of, networking connections during and after grad school as well. So I think, yeah, absolutely, just kind of taking advantage of everything possibly can during grad school while paying that tuition, I think is in your best interest.
To talk a bit about the specificity also, because you're in that more focused program, again, grad school, there's a variety of different sizes of different kinds of programs, length, all those different things. But I think something that's relatively common is that because you're in this extremely specific endeavor with your peers, it's not like, an undergrad when you're a freshman and you're in a lecture course and the person next to you is majoring in economics and the person next to you on the other side is majoring in early childhood education or something. You're embarking towards, in most cases in your course, a very similar sort of thing, which makes your cohort and your peers such an important resource. I can speak to my graduate experience, for example. The people that I graduated with, my cohort through my grad program, we talk to each other all the time. We send each other professional recommendations. You work, and it's really important, depending on the size of your program and the type of thing that you're going for, to make sure that, you recognize that networking is not something that has to be done outside of the classroom, because you're going into the same field as these people. You're going into, in many cases, going to work in the same area, same industry, or even the same geographic city. So you never know when you'll cross paths with folks that you're in graduate school with again. And it's so important to start that network. And, again, they're going to be both hopefully friends, but also highly relevant professional connections. And I think that's something that should definitely be appreciated about graduate school as well.
Thank you all. We'll take one more question and then we'll move into our breakout rooms. I think this is a good question to end on. But what is, let's say a student has been admitted to your program. What is one thing that you hope they take advantage of during their time in your school?
I can start. So I would say our Office of Career Engagement. We always say that they are your partner in crime, but it really is a partnership. So you are going to get as much out of it as you put into it. But I'm sure a lot of the schools have their own career resources, but it's people who are there to really partner with you to help you be successful after graduation and finding employment. So, we have students who partner with them a lot and students who partner with them not a lot. Definitely, I always encourage students, they're a great resource to utilize.
I was going to mention our career office as well. We have one within SIS, and the more that you interact with them, the more opportunities that you know of, and the more things that you can take advantage of. Beyond that, though, I always like to tell people, take advantage of getting to know your classmates. The student body at SIS is so wonderfully rich and diverse, and people come from different backgrounds with different perspectives and lived experiences. I just think the more that you can learn about other people, the more informed that you can be, in our case, as a practitioner in international affairs. So collaborate with each other, learn from each other, and get to know sort of the differences and the beauty in those differences that we have amongst our student body. And I think we have almost 20% international students. So it's great to get to know what other people from other countries are studying and prioritizing and different things like that. So yes, we have a wonderful resources in our different offices at SIS, but I think our people are our greatest resource. And I really think that the more that you can get to know your classmates and your faculty members as well, I think that you will take so much out of those relationships.
I think I'll echo again what Matthew has said, that CAS is about 20%, a little more international students. But I would say the biggest thing to take advantage of is the city where we're located. We're in Washington, DC, right? And so everything is just open to you. And the world's your oyster here in this city. It's such an international city. It's so diverse. It has so many different opportunities, whether it's the Smithsonian's or the NIH. I mean, all of these things are great. And the faculty will be there to help you with these internships, to put you in touch with interesting alumni and where they're working now. So just take advantage of the city where we are. There's so much to offer.
And maybe I'll close then with get involved with student organizations and clubs and things like that. Some folks view that as solely an undergraduate activity, but there's a lot of graduate focused student organizations as well, including governance organizations like student government and things like that. So if you are involved now, continue to stay involved. If you're not involved now, definitely something I recommend you do during your graduate study.